Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer, and here in person with me is Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar. First off, namaskaram to you, sir.
Namaskaram and thanks a lot. It's so nice to interact face to face rather than across oceans virtually.
So we are going to have a series of focused short conversations with General Ravi Shankar on a variety of topics that we both kind of felt that was important for all of us to understand. The stakes involved, what happens, how do you go about doing something, how do you plan for a successful operation. That's the underlying theme here. So we're going to start first with the tricky job that the Indian armed forces face when they are asked to come in and win the confidence of people in a disturbed area. Today, Manipur could be one. It was Punjab after Operation Blue Star for several years, as a matter of fact. Kashmir is another place that has been like that. So, General Ravi Shankar, you've seen action in all these places. And you mentioned once or twice about your experiences in some of these places. For example, how to conduct elections. How does the army conduct elections in Punjab? So I want to take you back to a situation where, the politicians mess it up. I mean, we are not going to paper over anything. That's usually what happens. And then suddenly the army is asked to come and take charge. So talk us through a little bit about one incident. It could be Manipur, it could be Punjab, it could be Kashmir, where you felt that it was the hardest thing to do, where you are asked to kind of fight with your one hand tied behind your back. Share with us what you felt and how you went about.
At the outset, I must mention that, give you a broad overview. You spoke of Punjab, you spoke of J&K, you spoke of the Northeast. The army over the past decades, 4-5 decades, we've been very successful at conducting operations out here. If you see, Punjab, we completely turned it around. Northeast has been completely turned around. Of course, Manipur has reignited for political reasons. J&K also has turned around, largely. If you compare J&K earlier to now, things have changed. What's the most difficult part of all these operations? The most difficult part of this operation is handling people. Why? Unlike other nations, the Indian Army is fully cognizant of the fact that the people whom we are dealing with are our people. For example, you will best understand it by different, if I juxtapose it with what's happening in Pakistan. Pakistan they've been using in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, helicopter gunships, artillery and everything against their own people. We've never done that. Even if it meant taking casualties, even if it meant conducting operations with one hand tied back, we've been very cognizant of the fact that we have to win over people. Whether it was in Punjab, whether it was in J&K or Northeast. There are many times there's been debate, should we use heavier weapons? Sensibly, the Indian Army has said no. And we've always fought with the lightest weaponry possible. At times, it's the militants who've used heavier weapons. And we've taken it, absorbed it, and yet come out trumps. So the first thing is, and the most difficult thing is, putting your life on the line for your own people against your own people. I won't say against the whole people as a whole, but a misguided element of a section of our society. And of course, there are politics involved, other extraneous issues involved. We've also, most of it has also been a proxy war, instigated by Pakistan, especially in Punjab and J&K, as it's happening now. So I think that has been the most difficult part. I can't pin down to say which one incident, but every incident we've had to use restraint force with restraint. I think that's the watchword. How do you win over people? I think that's a question which we need to understand. when you say how do you win the confidence of the people to do all this, you have to win the confidence of the people by many methods. They have to understand that you are there for them. For that, you have to go to the villages, speak to headmen, sarpants, all those. You have to ensure that you have a code of conduct. You don't use unnecessary force. You interact well with the local administration. Because very often, the tendency is to deal with, the political heavyweights at the highest level and ignore the local, the block development officer or the, small people. You have to focus on them, help them in their executing the task. There are many places where administration fails. So, there you have to ensure that the administration is re-energized and re-enabled. I'll give you a small example. I remember we went deployed in a place in Kashmir. This was just after the Op Vijay, and water lines were disrupted, electricity was disrupted, the villages were having difficulty and everything. When we went and got deployed, the municipal guy who gives water, supplies water, came running to me and said, "Sir, now that you have come, हमारा ना 1 लीटर खून बढ़ गया अभी, right? अभी हम सबको पानी देंगे, सब कुछ देंगे, सबसे पहले आपको देंगे हम पानी." So he got pipelines laid to my camp, which was in the middle of nowhere. We didn't get electricity, we didn't get many other things, but water we had within the next 3 hours. So people, and then of course the whole village got, then the electricity lines were restored in that area and things, and then I had a medical officer with me, a lady medical officer. So she would go to the village, and within the next 48 hours, she was the most sought after in that area. All the ladies used to come there. After all, in those remote areas, ladies lack medical care.
Right.
So these things matter a hell of a lot in those areas. And then your sheer presence allows farmers to go and work in their fields. I remember in Punjab once, we used to do cordon and search operations at the height of Punjab militancy. So the army used to do the cordon and the police used to do the search inside. Because we said we'll not do search. Right? And that was the agreement, and they used to do. They used to get women police and all that. But when we did the cordon, we used to go into the cordon early in the morning. So the moment we went early in the morning and put cordon, so people suddenly, after some time, we found a pattern. The pattern was the local people used to sleep in their bore wells and this and that for protection. They used to know that the army is around. So immediately they'll start working in their fields, irrigating their fields and running their bore wells and all that. So that's how, then they're confident that the army is around, the terrorists or militants won't come and interfere with us. And then of course you run local health schemes. You restore transport services, then you send people out from there for excursions outside, and so that those people who, a lot of militancy is fueled by lack of knowledge of the outside world from these remote areas. So we used to send girls and boys, young girls and boys, on excursions and Sadbhavana tours to the rest of India. In fact, I sent one lot to Delhi, school children, 8, 9, 10th standard. They went and met President Abdul Kalam then. And they come to know very interesting things. And one interesting episode I still remember is that, in the Northeast, we all talk, it's not developed, people are not rich and all that. But surprisingly, I felt in the Northeast, there's a social net there. You find no one begging. You find no old people uncared for. the social net of the tribes takes care of these things. That no one goes hungry and the old people are taken care of with what they have. They might not have the best medical facilities, you might have no medical facilities, but the society, the tribal society takes care of them. And so there was this girl of 8th standard, 9th standard, I remember her name was Nancy, a Christian girl, Naga girl. She went and asked the President Abdul Kalam, a question. She said, "Sir, as we came from Assam to Delhi in the train, we found people begging and this and that." So the president didn't understand what that girl was speaking. Why? He gave an answer which is the normal answer. So later when the girl came back and she, I was told that she asked this, it was then I realized, you talk of a girl who's from a very poor background, but she's never seen begging, she's never seen that kind of a thing. And this is a society which we have not recognized, we don't recognize the pluses of the society. Right? And even the president couldn't understand what she was speaking. So you need to do a lot of understanding of what's there on ground. How do people live? How do people exist? And the motivation for them to exist. And when you understand them, when you go with them, then you find a lot of things happening. I think I've spoken a lot. A few more questions and then we'll...
Yeah. One of the interesting things that has happened is Manipur, as the way it is today, it's kind of got caught up in a few things, and it has had some impact in the general elections also. Misinformation. I'm sure army also faces similar things where they get cordoned by the other side, and I think they caught 3 or 4 miscreants of one tribe, and there were just too many women, and I think in one case they started disrobing.
Yeah. So
how do you deal with that kind of thing?
Well, you have to have patience in that. You have to understand why they're doing what they're doing. In that particular incident, I thought the Assam Rifles did a terrific job, and that party did a terrific job. So there were a few militants were caught, and these ladies came and garroted them and all that. And their idea was to ensure that those militants are not taken away, arrested. And they were important people. Those fellows were real militants, hardcore militants. But the society was with them. You have to recognize the moment and say, okay, fine, I'll let you go now. He'll get caught other day. One. Number 2, he's your national at the end of the day. You might be antinational at this point of time, misguided, politically guided, whatever it is. He's not your enemy in the true sense. Right? So you handle him. If you don't catch him now, you will catch him tomorrow. You don't catch him, you will catch someone else. It's a relentless operation. And you don't look for results in terms of the number of arrests, the number of people you knocked off, and you don't look at the number of arms you get. You look at restoring peace. So the approach has to be very clear. You have to restore peace. You have to be under adverse conditions and absorb these adverse conditions. And these small incidents which happen are tactical defeats. Now if you count those tactical defeats and blow them up, then there is no end. But you have to say, okay, fine, this happened, what next? And this can happen the next time. Because in counterinsurgency and adverse situations, the learning is never ending. There's always a new day, there's always a new situation which you have to handle. So this would have taught the army a lot of lessons to handle future situations and to ensure that such situations don't develop, and if they do develop, how to handle them. You have to have patience. You have to be prepared to learn. You have to evolve with time. You have to evolve with the situation, which I think the Indian Army has done very successfully over the past 5 decades. You will find that no other army has been able to do what the Indian Army has done on these issues.
As a matter of fact, I want to draw your attention to a page that Israel took out of India's book. For instance, when stoning was at its height, you had army tie up one of the stoners in the front, and then they could go through that area. And then there was a lot of screaming and a lot of politics that got played after that. We're not going to look at that. What I'm saying is, recently in Israel, same thing happened.
Same thing happened. Look, fundamentally, the tactics which you apply are normal. After all, this tactic was invented by the militants and the terrorists using human shields. So when this officer used it in India, it became a big thing, as if it was unbecoming and things like that. But at the fundamental level, he had no choice. Right? Might not be the best thing to do, but no choice. If he had to pull his troops out from there without any, loss of men, because when you undertake operations against them, we consider them to be our citizens. But some of these misguided people, especially those who are state-sponsored from Pakistan, across the border, they don't treat us as their nationals. They say we are occupation army or some other army, enemy. So they're pretty ruthless about it if they get a chance. So how do you get out of it? I thought that officer did very well, to be very honest. Well, the controversy which erupted is different. And it took, after 10 years, the Israeli army did the same thing. The controversy is equal here also. But they did it. You have to do unconventional things. But look at it from a different point of view. Just that one action has defused the situation at that point of time, saved a lot of lives, including the guy who was tied on the vehicle or whoever it is. Right? After that, the information war can continue. It doesn't matter.
So, General Ravi Shankar, we are going to stop this conversation on this topic at this point. Then viewers, we're going to come back. This is a series of 4 or 5 talks that we're going to have between me and General Ravi Shankar. But one leads to the other. Do watch the entire series. And also, we are going to try and put it out in both gunner shot as well as in P Gurus. For sure, it will be on P Gurus. These are some things that I'm experimenting. That's why I'm going to do my best to try and bring it to both channels.
No, we'll have it on both. There's no problem.
Should be no problem.
No issue at all.
So, thank you once again, thank you once again, General Ravi Shankar. Viewers, like, share and subscribe to both these channels. We are serious. And the most important takeaway that we have to take from here is these are our people. And the misguided elements need to be brought around. And that is going to be one of the things that we'll be talking about in our next episode. Thanks once again, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar.